Okay, guys, 2 shots, no, 3, 4 shots, okay? Everybody smile.
Hi! Happy Hanukkah! Hi!
Okay, guys, everybody look at me. I need all your face like this, yeah, and a little bit like this. Good, guys, look at me, couple times. One more time, baby, can you smile?
Ilana, smile! You're crying! Just to see it. Just look at the camera.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Look at me, guys. Look at this. What is this,
Hi,
guys?
sweetheart. Hi.
1, 2, 3.
Everyone happy?
Okay, all happy.
Okay. Charlie.
Maybe you want to sit up.
I can't take off my glasses.
Oh, boy.
Then I go crocodile.
Okay. Everyone. Okay. Everyone, look here. Okay. Look, everyone here. Okay.
Moving picture, don't move.
Okay.
Grandparents.
All right. One more. Okay. Now another shot. It's a different shot. It's a little panning here. So see the little.
Hey, hello.
You've been in the movie, but being a fan. She's the best picture taker. You're the best. I love it. It's okay.
All right. Go ahead.
Test or what?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm
Check.
taking all your family, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, this is just one family now.
No, it's fine.
Danielle, is it okay?
It's appropriate for us to congratulate Charlie and Ronita for this wonderful event, being honored by Yavna. I have to say, for Debbie and myself, it was them, Charlie and Ronita, that were actually pivotal in us making the move to Yavna. And we're extremely happy that we're there. And we're very proud of you, Charlie and Ronita. And we look forward to the dinner. So I guess I'm here to tell you a short story about my grandfather, Moshe Sassoon, who probably was one of the first Jews of his generation that left Baghdad to get to Indonesia. And he was a stowaway in a ship. And the story goes that he didn't have enough money for a ticket to get on the ship. And as the ship would leave port, he would swim to the ship, climb up, and stay inside the ship. The captain would find him a few days later, wait to get to the next port, kick him off the ship. The ship would sail away, and Moshe would swim again to the ship, get back on the ship. Captain would find him again. 2-3 times, 3 ports later, the captain figured he'd give him a job. And this Moshe Sassoon, my grandfather, ended up in Indonesia and one of the pioneers of the Indonesian Jewish community, originally from Iraq. He later brought his family over to Indonesia, and they settled there. My father was born there, my mother was born there, my 3 sisters were born there, and the rest is history. Thank you.
Anytime you want.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are very happy to be here tonight to share with you some stories from the Indonesian Jews that were there during World War II. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce my wife, Ronita Aslan, my mother, Sophie Aslan.
Okay, we'll start again. I'm not...
Take them separately?
Okay, 1, 2, go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so happy to be here tonight. And, cut.
Again.
I like that.
Just yell cut.
Okay, cut. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait 1 second.
Okay.
Wait,
Okay.
your makeup guy has to keep there. Okay, one. Okay, quiet.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Cut. I'm sorry.
Don't stop it.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so happy to be here tonight to share with you some stories about the Indonesian Jews during World War II. Before I begin, I would like to introduce my wife, Renita Aslan, my lovely daughter, Ilana Aslan, and my mom, Sophie Aslan, and most of all, Dahlia Godse, my mother-in-law, who came from London to visit us. Around the table, we have Lulu Judah, Helen Jonah, Emma Aslan, my auntie, Jack Aslan, and Talia, Debbie Sassoon, Ruthie Simon, my sister-in-law, Charles Simon, all the way from Singapore, and Carrie from Singapore, Bettina, Artie Simon, Emmy Simon, and we would like to share some stories with you tonight. Okay.
You want to start that? Go.
No.
Over here to my mom,
I'll start from here.
all the way around?
Yeah.
Or this way?
No, start from here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is my wife, Renita Aslan. Ilana, my lovely daughter, who's attending
Wait,
Yavna.
one more time. I didn't know I missed it. You can say one more time.
Okay,
Right?
one more time. My wife, Renita Aslan. Ilana, my lovely daughter, who's attending Yavna, who I'm so pleased with. Lulu Judah.
Wrong.
What? Sorry. Okay. No, let me do it again.
Okay,
One more
go
time.
ahead. I don't see your face. Okay.
It's okay.
She gets on purpose.
Show your
Go
face.
ahead. Go ahead.
Sit down back.
Straight, no shoulders. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd like to introduce my wife, Renita Aslan, Lulu Judah, Helen Jonah, my auntie Emma Aslan, my favorite uncle Jack Aslan, Talia, Debbie Sassoon, Ruthie Simon.
Wait. Go ahead.
Oh, Ruthie or Debbie?
The one with the black. After Debbie.
Okay, Ruthie Simon, my sister-in-law, Charles Simon, all the way from Singapore. Just for the special occasion, he has a few good stories he'd like to say. Carrie, my daughter Bettina, Artie Simon from Singapore, Emmy Simon, Dahlia, my mother-in-law from London,
Okay, go ahead.
Ruthie Simon, my sister-in-law, Charles Simon, all the way from Singapore, Carrie, Bettina, my daughter, Artie Simon, Emmy Simon, Dahlia Godse, my mother-in-law, all the way from London, and my mother, Sophie Aslan.
Hooray.
Dat is al dood. Oh. Ja, zo. Oké, never mind.
Three. One. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you a story about Yom Kippur Day on, I was a prisoner of the Japanese. So this is about Yom Kippur Day in 1943 in Thailand. We were on the way to a place called Takinun, which is very close to the border of Burma. We were building a railway about 253 kilometers from Banpong to just a point beyond Takinun. And we were on a communication party, putting up telephone poles and wires all around. There was a party of about 15 of us. I think there were, I can't remember now all that long, way back, but about 3 or 4 of us were Jews. And so, Yom Kippur Day, we were marching there with our backpacks on our back, and we were all fasting. We were doing something like, I think it was about 28 kilometers. So you can imagine what it does to a man who's fasting, and all that way. But you know, this is going to be a very short story. So when we finally got to Takiloon, you'll never believe it. We had a welcome party of 4 Jewish boys from London, and they happened to be cooks, not in the prisoner of war cookhouse, but in the Japanese cookhouse. And what kind of a feast do you think awaited us there? It was until today, I remember it as the best meal, the best dinner that we ever had. It beats any other dinner that I had anywhere else. You see, we broke our fast, and I think I still dream till today that it must have been God's finger who made it so that we came to a place there which was where the kitchen was run by Jewish boys, and they gave us such a wonderful meal to break our fast on Yom Kippur, 1943. Thank you. That's a short story. Now,
You finished?
if you want to hear another story,
Oh, no, yeah, okay, hold on a second.
well,
Do you want to turn your chair a little bit?
What?
Do you want to turn your chair?
No, it's all right, it's all right. I can turn around.
Okay, just pretend you're talking to them. Just say anything you want. Talk to them. Just say anything you want.
I don't need to look to the camera.
No, right now look at them.
No, look at that.
Yeah, no, just look at them. Talk. Yeah, keep talking.
Okay. All right, let's start now.
Yeah, keep talking to them. Say anything you want.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, just another little story, but this time it's going to be a bit longer, because this is about the blackest day in my life, followed by the happiest day in my life.
Okay, hold on a second, okay? Just
Yeah.
a second. Just a second. Fine, hold your thought, okay? I'm getting some cutaways. We call those cutaways here. Okay. Everyone just pretend you're listening to him.
Pardon?
No, just pretend you're listening to him. Because we're going to put it later. Okay.
I'm not speaking just yet.
No, don't speak yet. Again. Just again.
All right?
No, just again. Getting some.
Hello.
Okay, just pretend you look at. Everyone look at him now.
Okay.
Okay, everyone look at him.
But this one, I don't know. How are you?
And the Japanese tells you thank you, you tell them don't touch my mustache.
That happened. That's another story.
Tell them. Top of you.
Okay, everyone quiet. Shh. 1, 2, go.
Well, this is about the blackest day in my life. It was February 15th, 1942. I was in the volunteers in Singapore, and I was in volunteers in Singapore, and you know, the war against Japan had started on December the 8th, 1941, and this day was the 15th February, 1942. It was in fact Chinese New Year's Day. And that was the day when General Percival of the British forces surrendered to the Japanese. You can imagine what this meant to us who were fighting the Japs, although I personally never saw a single Jap until they started to come up Stevens Road, come up Stevens Road, past the Tangling Club. I was dug in the Goodwood Hotel grounds with barbed wires, fences and all that there. And the last act that I was doing there before the Japs came was in fact to defend the Tangling Club. You see, if anybody knows the Tangling Club, you know what a wonderful club it is. Anyway, we watched a platoon of Japanese soldiers coming up the hill, coming round the hill, up there, coming up right up to the Goodwood grounds. You know the Goodwood Hotel as it is now, the same as it was then. And then we didn't know what to expect. So they were all right. They went round us. We had to stand to attention as they came by. There was also about a platoon of us there, dug in there, and were standing to attention at the time. And they started with people over there. I was standing over here. And I could see that they started to take watches. They saw any watches, or they saw any pens. They took them off the prisoners, one by one. So I was able to, before they came, I was able to hide mine somehow or other, you know. And when they finally came to me, they didn't find anything. And they said, Kura, Bagero, Carnero, all the Japanese swear words that you could imagine. And they say, nothing. I said, I got nothing. Nothing. Why nothing? Well, you got nothing. So anyway, so that was it. And because of that, we felt that we had surrendered. Singapore had surrendered. There was no way that we could escape or anything like that. We could not escape with the soldiers. They were all white-skinned soldiers, English, and the volunteers were also, there was lots of Europeans, that because I was in that particular company. So I think if I had known, and if most of us had known that it was going to be 3.5 years to the very day, until Japan surrendered on the 16th August 1945. So 3.5 years to the day. If we had known that, we might have tried everything possible to escape, and we would undoubtedly have got shot or been beheaded or something with the Japanese, as did in fact happen to some of us who did try to escape and never made it. And now, but I must tell you that out of 85 military people who went into the Japanese camps on the Thai railway, we were not on the Burma railway, we were on the Thai railway, and we built, as I said earlier, 252 kilometers to a place called just beyond Takanoon. Now, excuse me. Now I go across the years. I will not tell you what's happened in 3.5 years, and how it was possible for people to survive even, but they did. At that moment, at that very moment when we surrendered, when Singapore surrendered, we were told later that 85,000 military people had been brought over to Thailand to work on the railway, and when nearly 2 years later, when the railway was completed, and most of us were sent elsewhere, like myself, I was finally sent to Japan itself. That only 35,000 survived. There were only 35,000 from 85,000. 50,000 soldiers had died on the railway.
Yeah, hold your thought.
Yes.
Talk to them and then look at me.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, now I've come to a story where out of 85,000, 35,000 survives. So now, going down the line, I'm going down to nearly 3.5 years later, when I was in Japan, in a small place called Toyama, which was a small port on the west coast of Japan. There, we had been sent there by about in July or August, July 1945, only about 6 weeks before the atom bombs were dropped on Japan. But we knew nothing at all about the atom bombs until after we were released. Anyway, what happened then, I was in a small camp. There were about 100 British, there were about 400 Americans, and the one in charge of the camp was an American major. There were 19 Australians and 1 Dutchman in that camp. And when on about the 14th, on the 13th or 14th of August, we saw one single plane coming from a great distance and coming over to our camp and circling our camp and then circling other camps. We were in the middle of rice fields. We were only about 500 plus people in that camp. And they circled it, and circled it 3 times. And it was a B-24 that came there. And when on the 3rd run, the bomb doors opened, and about 6 45-gallon drums attached to parachutes came down from the aircraft down into our camp. And you know what those canisters, those 45-gallon drums contained? They contained all the K rations that were fed to the American soldiers who were fighting way north in Chongqing, not where we were, in Thailand. And you can imagine, when we saw that, then it really came true to our minds that at last, after 3.5 years, we were free. You can imagine what it can possibly feel like to be free men and not to be slapped and kicked and all kinds. I can tell you lots of stories, but I won't bore you too much tonight. So that was my happiest day, when the feeling of freedom came through to our minds, and we could do what we wanted. We wanted to do many things, but that will be another story some other time.
No, tell me
Thank
about
you.
the moustache.
Ah, yes. All right, one little thing. Well, about my moustache.
Just wait, hold on.
One more thing.
Wait. Wait.
Yes.
Tu i taci masti.
Can I tell you the story?
Yeah.
There's a very short story about this moustache. I grew this moustache.
Look at my camera.
Fun?
Look at my camera.
That's all right.
Okay.
But I'd grown this moustache long before I became a prisoner. I'd been to Australia, and that's where I grew it. And from that time on, I had moustache all the time. So the moustache and I were inseparable. So on one particular day, I was having a haircut. And one of the Japanese guards walked along and saw the barber giving me a haircut. And he said, "Moustache, cut!" Yes. I dawned on me, he wanted the barber to cut my moustache. I said, "No cut." He said, "Cut!" I said, "No cut." And then he pointed the bayonet at me. He said, "Cut!" I said, "No cut!" I was determined to hang on to this bloody moustache. So when he saw that I wasn't going to give in, he walks away. Thank God. I thought he was going to bayonet me. I was prepared to die for my bloody moustache. Okay, is that it, Jack?
You're satisfied, Jack?
Do you know what? In Japanese, somebody
Thank you.
says thank you, Thank you, arigato gozaimasu.
Arigato gozaimasu.
You have to reply, do itashimashite. But an Englishman says, don't touch my mustache.
Yes.
Do itashimashite.
Well, thank you. Thank you, cameraman.
Okay.
Thank you.
1942, the Japanese came in to Indonesia and they didn't know anything about Jews. So the Jews used to tell them that they are Italians and they are all kinds of things, you know. And they accepted everything until the German Gestapo came and told them you have to arrest all the Jews. So they got a Dutchman. And in 1943, on the 4th of February, that was a Saturday, all the Jewish people, they were very religious. They were sitting around their table, having kiddush in the morning, and there they come in, and this Dutch fellow will point out at us and those are Jews. But the Japanese already know that we are Italians, so they couldn't believe it. So they put the men on trucks and they took them to the concentration camp. The Jews were the first in the concentration camp. So they picked up all the men of the families and left the women. This is in the military part. You see, you have two parts of the Japanese in Indonesia. One part is the Navy part, that is, the Navy is in the big cities on the coast. And the Army is in the 100 kilometers away from the coast, that's the Army. So the Jews of the Army controlled were the first that go into concentration camps. So that was our first knowledge that we had to go to concentration camp, was 4th of February 1942. Then they wanted to have the Jews all killed because the Gestapo came and told us that the Jews have horns, and so the general said, okay, kill them all. So every Jew in the concentration camp had to be shaved. The head had to be shaved. So then the general had a girlfriend. She was a Romanian Jewish woman, and she played Esther. And then the general came to our concentration camp, and I happened to be the sample of a Jew. So he hit me on my forehead very hard and said, "Where are your horns?" And then he talks to me a little bit and he says, "Hey, these Jews look like Clark Gable." I didn't even know who Clark Gable was. So then he said, okay, they have to be treated like all other prisoners. Then the Dutch started on us. The Dutch put us, all the Jews, separate on one side. The place where they torture people was on the other side. And opposite the Jews, they put the Catholics because they were Protestant. So we were the nearest to the place where they would torture people. And that's how it all started. So we were tortured many, many times. It was going through torture. But then we have a lot of things that make us laugh. One day the camp commander, a Japanese fellow, comes in on the motorcycle and has a young fellow on the back of the motorcycle who is a Jewish-looking fellow, but he's Armenian. So I tell him, "You're a Jew." He said, "No, I'm not Jew." Then he jujutsus him, beats him up and everything. And she's the witness. She knows about it. She was outside. She was outside. She knows about it. So what happened is, this fellow opens his pants. He says, "Here, I prove you I'm not a Jew." Then the fellow looks. He doesn't understand. He calls the Dutch camp commander. He said, "What is this fellow showing that thing for?" He says, "Jews are circumcised." So then the Japanese fellow went into the office, put his legs on the table, and everybody had to come in and open his pants. So there were English people there, and they were also circumcised as Jews. Said, "No," he goes out, beats the hell out of them until they say that they're Jews. So then everybody knew if he's circumcised, he had to be Jewish. Then my father was brought there. So he told the Japanese fellow, "You know, you have Indonesian soldiers, they're all Jews." What the hell are you beating us up for? You have Indonesian soldiers that slave for you. I said, what? Indonesian soldiers are Jews? I said, yeah, let them open their pants. So then he went out and they refused. So he said, I'm an officer, I order you. The fellow refused. Then the military police was brought in, so they forgot about that. So it became a big hullabaloo. They were Muslims, so they were also circumcised. So my father said, you have all Jewish soldiers, so what the hell are you fighting Jews for? If everybody that is circumcised is a Jew, you have a whole military brigade here. That's Jewish. You remember that or not? She was outside watching here, this lady. So that's one story. Then of course there are a lot of other stories. Some doctor comes in, the concentration camp, and he says, let's get 600 people together. And of course they put the Jews in with the 600. The Dutch are also very anti-Jewish. So what happened is, yeah, oh la la. Yeah, no, they are your best friends, I know. So what happened is, they feed us fat soup for 6 months. So one rabbi told us, you're not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to drink the soup because it's fat. It's against our religion. You know, when I looked up, I would see stars, but I was not allowed, so I listened to the older ones. So what happened is, 6 months later, suddenly they feed us. I saw the people that ate the fat, their legs started swelling almost until the heart. So he was trying to find out. So not one Jew was touched because we were not allowed to eat it. So then they started investigating why the Jews don't get it. They got the same ration. So I tell them we don't eat it. So they get angry and then they bring me into a torture chamber. They dig my nail out. The first day I didn't scream. The second day I started screaming because my foot started swelling and the pain is so much you can't believe it. And then I've been through a lot of these problems with them until the war was over. And then I was lucky that I came out alive, that's all. So I have a lot more stories, but what do you want to hear?
Yes, that's wonderful. Indonesia before the war.
I can tell it.
You want to bring it around?
Lulu will tell because she knows more than us.
About what?
About life in Indonesia
what it was like
before the Japanese.
Let me tell something.
Life in Indonesia was wonderful. We were happy. We are like united. Religion is, you can do it and nobody will say anything. Nobody will point on you that you are a Jew, you know, dirty Jew like somewhere else. Not in Indonesia. Because most of the Indonesians are Muslim and we have similar habits, you know.
Absolutely.
They don't eat pork, we don't eat pork. We have circumcision, they have circumcision.
There was no anti-Semitism.
And they helped us in the concentration camp. They really did, the Muslim.
But tell about your home.
That is...
Your home before the war. What the home you all had. Almost like a palace. Tell. You know, I mean, that's how we lived. We lived in beautiful homes. We had at least 6 domestics. Every home had at least 6 domestics. And we were not stopped from making money.
To improve yourself.
You know, my family had a factory. Had a pharmaceutical factory and a candy factory. We had it very good. We had 7 cars with 7 drivers. Each of us was driven to school and brought back from school by the chauffeur. We had a wonderful life, there was nothing missing. And that is why the concentration camp was so hard on us. Because we came from such a luxurious surrounding and life. That is why it was very, very hard on us. But we made the best of it. We made the best of it. The Indonesian soldiers were good to us. We smuggled, at the risk of our lives, of course. We smuggled food. We helped the hospitals with the food that we smuggled in. Her daughter was very, very sick. I risked my life to smuggle and give her the eggs that I brought in at night for her daughter. Her daughter was so sick because our rice was mixed with corn, and the corn was so sharp. She was a baby. There was no other food for her, so she had to eat the rice. And she had like diverticulosis. There were holes in her intestines. She had to be brought to another camp where the very good Dutch doctors were. And those Dutch doctors saved her daughter's life, like they saved my mother's life. My mother had a hysterectomy in camp, in the same camp, with hardly any anesthesia. Hardly any anesthesia. She came out of the anesthesia before the doctors were ready. But we survived and had a good life afterwards. Now you.
You said it all.
No, you have to. Now you talk about the camp when we were interned.
How we were interned.
How we were interned, but the lorry, the truck, we said
How you were
lorry.
brought on Shabbat, Erev Shabbat you were brought, right?
Yeah.
Erev Shabbat, you were sitting down for dinner and you were brought to camp. Wasn't that it?
Early in the morning, no, early in the morning. They were interned a week before we were interned because the Japanese knew who were they made a distinction. European Jews, they didn't know about Sephardic and Ashkenaz. They knew Iraqi Jews and European Jews.
Iraqi Judea.
Yeah.
Iraqi
So they
Judea.
were interned a week before us, but we were ready. We were all ready, all our money, because they thought that we were
that they were
Ashkenaz.
They didn't know they were.
Yeah, we were in the list of the Ashkenaz Jews. You see, but we were ready. All our money was buried. And all our gold was buried.
Your money. Because I hear from my dad all the time talk about it.
Of course.
So tell them.
We were ready. All the Jews were ready. We knew that we were going to be interned. So the men got together and we converted our money in gold bars. And that we buried in our homes. And when we came out of camp, the first thing we dug up, the gold was there, the money was there, the jewelry was all there. We got everything back. That's how we could start all over again. All the Jews did that. The men came together and they dug like a tunnel, you know, and they dug very, very intelligently. They dug this way and that way, you know. So even when later the tile would move a little bit because there was digging done, but the Japanese never found anything from nobody, from anybody of us, nobody of us. Is that correct? Correct?
Correct.
Tell the story.
We lived in a colonial house.
No, I cannot hear you unless we have the microphone.
Auntie,
Go ahead.
We lived in a colonial house, and when we came out of concentration camp, the house was totally destroyed, and they dug about 2 meters under to find the money and the gold that we put away.
But you found the gold?
No, they found it.
Oh, not for the Surabaya Jews,
not.
not.
In Malang, they went through everything.
We got everything back.
In Surabaya, but not in
You
Malang.
didn't dig intelligently.
Yeah, you should have dug this way.
No. They dug the whole house out.
Your
You know,
and Joseph. And they went to every Jewish home.
And told them to dig that one.
They helped.
How did you manage to, like, the men's camp?
Pardon?
How can you manage to go to the men's camp?
No, I was never in a men's camp.
My favorite story of Daddy's, well, it's not my favorite stories, but the one that sticks in my mind the best.
I want to tell the
How they used to
miracle.
Stick the hoses in.
Story. You can tell the story. I wasn't there. I wasn't
Do you
there.
remember that story?
Yes, I remember. I had a brother and a sister. There was one Dutch girl that was caught because she was caught listening to the news on the BBC. Then she told the Japanese, we were already in jail. She told her that she got the radio from the family. We gave it to her and we always listened to the BBC. That day, God was great. The men were transported first from the jail to a concentration camp. We women, the next day. So she told my little sister and brother, you remember me, I used to come to you, and we were all sitting together listening to the radio and to the news. She said, no, I don't remember you. So smart. You were only 11 and 13. I don't remember you. She said, please, remember your brother Charlie and your brother Ruby, we were all together. Thank God. If they have called my brothers and they see her hanging there, they would have said yes, you know, gentlemen. But the kids, they didn't. They knew if they say something, that's it. My little sister, she wanted to distract the story. She looked at the children pictures of the soldiers. He had children pictures. She said, is it your children? She changed the whole subject. He talked to her, he said, yes, that is my daughter, this is my son. And that girl was forgotten. But in the beginning, they still didn't believe the kids. My brother, his lips were burned with a cigarette. Tell the truth. If she says something, there must be something. She said, I don't know. She can say whatever she wants, but in our house, children, by 7 o'clock, we are in bed. We don't stay up. I haven't seen her. And my other sister, my little sister, they didn't touch her. But my brother, they burned his lip to tell the truth. And he said, I don't know. I have never seen her. So stories like that. That is miracles, really. Otherwise, if they say yes, we were on the radio and all that, we would be slaughtered there. Like spies.
That's right.
Now another miracle is with my baby. She was dying. The camp couldn't save her. She has to go to another hospital. They want to throw her in the vegetable truck. No mother, no one can join them. I couldn't. I ran to the camp commandant. The Dutch woman, she said, Lulu, don't do it. You're bringing us all in trouble. You're not allowed to go with your daughter. She has to go alone. I said, I will try. I must try. So I went to the office and I kneeled for him. It's for my daughter. Who cares? I said, please. I saved her so far. Don't let her go alone. Let me go with her. And he said, go. The camp commandant was there. I passed her because she wanted to stop me. So I went with my daughter in the vegetable truck. They bring the vegetables and then the truck goes empty and then we go in. I will tell you what miracle it is. The driver of the truck, he looked at me and he said, when they recognize you, they point to the nose. Chuta, Chuta. I said, oh God, do I have to have a maniac next to me? What is this now, you know? And I look at him, and he looked at me, and then he pointed on his watch. Chuta. His eyeglasses, Chuta. My husband was dealing in eyeglasses. He's an optometrist, and he was dealing in watches. And the Japanese love eyeglasses, and they love watches. God bless my husband. He didn't cheat it on them. The watch is still going. The eyeglasses, he still have it on for 2 years. If it was bad, he would have killed me. And he said, watch and the eyeglasses, Chuta. He recognized me because I helped my husband in the store. Then he said, baby, baby? I said, yes. Do you know what he did? There is holes, potholes from bombs. And in that letter, I have to hold my daughter so good on my lap that if she shakes and she vomits on my lap, she will die. So he goes around the potholes slowly. See the miracle. Coming to that hospital is about an hour, 2 hours drive. He gets out of the car. He said to me, sit, stay in the car. He goes in, brought the chief nurse out to take, and he gave her the letter, what's written in it, what to do for her. And here, and who is she? Sister Cohen, a Jewish woman, the chief nurse. She took my daughter. When she read that letter, ran inside, she said, follow me, she tells me. I want to check your blood, because she wants to do a blood transfusion on the dining table. For me, it's like giving birth again. I lie there, they have to take my blood. And it was not like here that you know, it's different. I did it. I got my daughter back. I stayed there. Every night a child dies. And I thought, oh God, oh God, oh God, you know. But she is alive. She's alive. Went back. Who is in the truck? The same driver. Was he happy? He took her like he saved the child. And I thanked him, and we came back to our original camp. That's miracle. I would have lost her. I would have lost her. Isn't there something? And there in the camp I met your mother.
Yes. Yeah.
I met your mother.
You remember when one woman escaped the camp? The next day they had to count us, and we were all in this. And my mother had just been operated on, so on a stretcher in the sun.
Sone.
Yes,
Sone
remember?
came.
And they counted, and there were two women missing. You remember that?
If the camp commandant comes in, and then they say, attention, you have to stand straight and bow for him. If you don't, the whole camp is punished. And it is nearly every day that we are punished because one woman says, the hell with him. He is so small and I'm bigger than him and not bowing. But she doesn't understand that we are suffering in the sun. Yeah. That is their rules. We have to follow their rules. Yeah. Very hard. We are here.
Exactly. Sophie, where's Sophie? Kom dan, Soph.
No, it's not all.
Nee, ja, ik heb nog niks van het kamp verteld.
She wasn't in camp.
After the camp.
But we have a story about her father.
So let's hear a story about her father.
When he got married to my sister,
Okay,
her father.
Start the story with the father. Because start again the story. I have a story about the father.
Start the story about the father.
When he got married to my sister.
Yeah, when you said when he said when my father. Okay.
Not my father, her father.
So when her father, when you say he, people don't know what you're talking about. So
Okay.
when her father, okay, go ahead.
Her father married my sister. And my mother, my parents gave them as a wedding gift.
An antique.
Not an antique, it's a Chinese bed, all chrome
You
and
thought it was
flowers.
Chinese, but it was Japanese.
No, it is a Chinese-made bed, but in that bed is a chrysanthemum, a flower, you know. What do we know? The chrysanthemum is the something.
Empress.
From the emperor, the sign,
The royal
emperor. So when the Japanese came to, in turn, to, how we call it?
They stormed the house.
They stormed the house, take all the men first, but then her father was still in bed. It was early in the morning. When he saw the chrysanthemum, he was very mad. He was bowing and bowing and bowing and
Japanese soldiers were bowing
for that
this
flower.
bed because it was an emblem
And
of the emperor.
You-
And then they were very angry.
Very
They said,
angry. How dare you sleep
in the
with
emperor's
the emperor's bed? What does he know? What does my mother know? For that he was put in the Gestapo, in a cell, not with the others, separate, because he
He was
disgraced.
in isolation. And they beat him for 6 months.
And the head of the Jews, the president of the Jewish community, also in. They had to have a whole list of the Jews, so no one can escape. They got it from all the members of the, you know. So at first the men and then the women.
Was there a distinction between the Jews and the non-Jews in camp?
Not later.
But in the beginning?
But we
were
the
separate.
Jews, were put in jail.
We were
Instead
put in
of concentration
jail.
camp, they were put in jail. The Jews and the Freemason. The Freemason and the Jews separate.
We were in jail, in cells.
In cells for 7 months.
Wow.
9 months.
9 months? I thought 7. Yeah?
We were in cells. We could come out only when they fed us, like animals, and then go back in the cells and was locked again. We were locked up.
And Auntie, tell how each one was allotted in when
That
you were
is-
in prisoner of war camp.
So then, after the 7 or 9 months, I forget, we were transported in a train in the middle of the night.
Right.
3 days and 3 nights we were in the
That
train.
is torture.
Without food, without water.
3 days and 3
Children were
nights.
crying for water. Whenever this train stopped, the young girls, you know, would come out of the train and look for puddles, dirty water, and we would bring it in for the children to drink. And I was the person that bought some food for the children. And Indonesian policeman saw me. So I came, gave the children the food, and he called me aside and gave me the beating of my life.
Tell them how
I
old
think-
you were.
Huh?
How old were you?
I was 14. You know, I think my legs swelled for a week from the beating he gave me. But, you know, at some point you don't even feel the pain anymore. When they torture you like that, you don't even feel the pain anymore.
And when they took you to the camps, tell them how the
Yes.
allotment
And then
of
we were all joined together with the Dutch women, the Americans, and the Australians. And the British. We all joined. We were allotted barracks, and each of us got 55 centimeters to sleep on wood, you know. Now, if you were too fat for the 55 centimeters, then you would have to sleep on your side all night. because that was the allotment. 55 centimeters for every woman and or child. That's how. And in barracks. Yeah.
And what were you fed?
The train ride was horrible.
The train ride was the worst night.
The worst.
What were you fed?
Sitting on the floor,
Fed?
next to each other, you can't even move.
We fed vegetables with cockroaches
It is really
in it.
a few hours from Surabaya to Jakarta, but it took 3 days to know how it goes. And the Japanese want the train to be bombed by the Allies.
And
Not
we were.
showing,
And we
no
were.
Red Cross, nothing on it. And they would have been bombed.
We were.
Yeah.
We
But
were.
then we
And
missed
we
it.
all went
Because
under
there
the-
was a flare.
Yes.
A flare went up. I think it is one of the Dutch or whoever that to show that it's not the army train, that it's different train, and we were not bombed, but we would have.
Yeah. All of us in the train, Dutch,
Crying, the
Americans.
kids crying, you can't go to the bathroom, it is stuck to each other on the floor. When we arrived after 3 days, no one could get up. No one. The legs are swollen. Then they push you, get out of the train faster, faster. It was horrible.
And Auntie Emmy, tell them how you were sent out with all the rest of the children to bring in provisions. You grew vegetables for the Japanese commanders.
Oh yes.
But then you would steal in your clothes and bring it in for the children.
Well, the Japanese told us that we had to grow our own vegetables. So they allotted us a piece of land, and we grew our own vegetables. And then her daughter was so sick. So her brother told me, come, you'll steal some.
You get measles, you get the pox, one after the other.
Yeah.
Every sickness you get. So how much can a baby
hepatitis
get all that?
Of course, because almost 55 centimeters only apart from one another. So her brother told me, come, let's get some tomatoes for Violet, that's her, because she's really very sick. So I said, okay. So we got some tomatoes and the Japanese got us. Ik wil niet zeggen hoe. No, I put, we had shorts on, so I put elastic on the legs of the shorts. Not knowing that, when you put the tomatoes, they'll all go in the center. So I was walking, and the Japanese asked me, what's that? So I said, well, I'm sick. Sick? Take your pants off, and all the tomatoes dropped on the floor.
There's fun stories too.
Yeah, there are. We made the
Thank
best
God, we
out
made
of
the
it.
best out of it.
Beaten for that, Auntie Emmy?
Huh?
Weren't you beaten for
Oh,
that?
hot.
Yeah.
Don't even talk about the beating I had.
What about the incident with the bones?
Her brother was
Because he was
13
young.
years
They
old.
were, if you were younger than a certain age, you got to stay with the women. If you were older, you had to go with the men.
But later they took him.
Yeah. They were trans.
Later became dangerous between the women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just trying to rape.
Yeah.
Who was raping who?
Women alone? Oh God.
Sure. 2,000 women. Anyway.
Cut.
What else?
Now Sophie has the stories. Sophie, jij moet zeggen over je
X-rated.
Do you want me to move it?
But the other girl they caught, and because she had it on her, and they put a hose into her mouth and continued to feed water into the hose, and she couldn't. She swallowed. She drowned in the food.
And then they jumped on her stomach, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Then we know.
All right, we were in turn.
Oh, start with your name.
Oh, my name is Sophie Aslan. Actually, it's a son. Before I got married. We were interned and we were put in a prison for 9 months, and they moved us to a different camp by train, and we were 3 days on board the train. And like she said, it was suffering on the train. There was no food, no water. So we arrived in a camp that is near Jakarta. It's called the Tangerang. And we were all there, the British, American, the Jews. It was sad because we were only stealing food, trading food, whatever we can. I had a brother who is not well. I had my mother who is sick, and I have a sister who is sick. And I was looking after them. I carried my brother on my back all the time because he gets wild. He was hungry, and he was running after the children. So I was afraid for accidents and things like that. So from that camp, they moved us. Because of him, they moved us to a different camp. We were there 3 months. They took him away from us. So my mother was crying. She was worried. So the camp commander, like she said, Captain Sony, he was actually the commander of all concentration camps.
The chief commander.
The chief commander. So every time the moon shines, he goes crazy, berserk. So my mother and I, we were sitting outside on the grass, and he walked by. So we have to get up and bow. So my mother tells me, talk to him, don't be afraid. Talk to him and get your brother out. Because they kept him in a hospital like for retarded children. So I got up and I talked to him in English. He understood English very well. So he says, okay. About 12 o'clock at night, I could take my brother out of there, and he was with us. We stayed 3 months in that camp, and they moved us to Chileng camp, which is the worst camp of all. And he was the camp commander. They moved us in an area, there's like a fence, and you have Indonesian guards. I'll make the story short. 3 months, my sister was sick in the previous camp, and they took her to a different hospital. So they moved us to this big camp, Chileng camp. And we didn't know what happened to her. So we got all prisoners from a different state, Bandung. They came to our camp. And these women, let us put it that way, they were all smugglers. They were smuggling food. But they forgot that if you smuggle, you don't smuggle in daylight. They came to our area section. There's about maybe 20 sections. You see, every section, like, there's a leader. So they came to our section and they were smuggling over the fence with the Indonesian. They were throwing sheets over it, and the Indonesians were throwing food over the fence. Who walked by on the bicycle? The camp commander, not the chief. He caught 3 of them. He made them stand in the center of the field, and he beats them. And then the chief commander made a law like, every section you have to come up with 1. So they took me. So I said, why do you have to take me? I told my, you call it like Komicho. It is. The Hancho is a different one. So I said, I have nothing to do with this. Why do you have to take me? She says, yes, because you are there. I said, I'm not the only one here. I didn't smuggle. Why don't you take one of your people? We were the only Jewish in that area. So she insisted. So I had to go. And we were in the chief commander's office till 2 o'clock in the morning. We were standing there in a row, about 12 women. I was the youngest. I was only 14 years old. And the others were all over 20. And each one, he was awful. Dutch people, they don't just come up and bow. So each one of them has to go to him. And they wouldn't. So he has to get up, and he was pulling their hair, kicking with his boots, and beating them, till the blood pours out. And then the next one, and then every time I see him hitting them and beating them, I was screaming at the end. So before he could get to me, I came in front of him. I was afraid. I said, I don't want to be pulled by my hair. So he was hitting me left and right and swung me around, and I fell. And I had to stand back again. And that was it. So he shaved our hair bald. All 9 of us. And I was crying. So we had to move from where we are in the open field with my brother and my mother till they moved us to a different section. When I went to my mother saw me, she cried. The nurse of the hospital that took my sister to a different hospital, she came to us, she said, your sister is back. My other sister who was with me, she was not so strong. She came and said, my sister Saida is back in the hospital and she looks good, she gained weight. So I looked at her and I told my mother, that's not good. We went to the hospital and I saw my sister there. She didn't last for 3 days. She passed away.
She was 26 years old.
27.
27. She was 27.
That's how we got her back. Like she said about things happen in camp. We did anything to survive.
Yeah.
Anything. Whether we were beaten or kicked, like my brother, my youngest brother, we were together. He did everything. He was going to the Japanese office, pretending like he's working for them, and he was stealing food. And he was giving my mother, because my mother was sick. She had high blood pressure, and she had other complications too. She nearly died in Tangerang, you remember? They had to take her away, and my elder sister was lighting a candle, praying. And my brother didn't want to send her away on her own. He fought his way out. He had to go on the bus or a truck when they took my mother. He says, I'm not leaving my mother. I was trying to hold him. He says, no, I'm going. I wanted to go. They didn't allow me, but he fought his way to go with my mother. And he went to the hospital in 4 or 5 days. She came back with him. But she was sick all the time, you know, off and on. But most of all, I mean the worst of all, is we were together. We were moved from camp to camp. And I didn't see them till the war was over. I mean, it's not easy to talk about it. They can tell stories about things, but there's a lot worse than that. A lot worse. Like she says, the camp commander, midday in the night, you have boys, they don't bow or they did things. He got 12,000 women and children, even the sick in the hospital, out of, and we were all on one street till the next morning, standing, waiting what he's going to do. So the food truck for 3 days didn't come in. There was no food. They have to bury the truck with food. The boys that were working in the kitchen or something, remember? They were digging a hole and buried the whole, all the food in, and we were 3 days, no food, no water. And in Jakarta, where we are, the water was dripping. So I had to carry pails of water, say about a mile. I have to carry it and bring it to where we are in the barracks to get water. It's not easy, like, you know. I'm sure in Europe it's worse because there were gas. But let me tell you this.
We don't have that. We can go without heavy clothes. It's, you know, it's different. But in Germany and all that is horrible.
It's horrible, but if the war was not over, you know, they would have sent us to Vietnam, and that's the death camp. That were the rumors in camp. They would have transferred us to the Saigon, I think, Cambodia it was.
Yeah. We were not dying.
And we didn't know where our brothers were. My father, like she said, was taken by the Gestapo. The Japanese call it the Kampitai. Actually, they shouldn't take him. He was not in the wrong or anything. It was my eldest brother who was with some Dutch people listening through radios during the war about what happened. And they caught my father instead, the same name. He was the first that was arrested, and they tortured him for 3 months till they brought him back. We can talk and laugh about it. It's not good. I'm sure they have suffered, their parents have suffered. You know, they were sick. There were a lot of sad things. But we were young. Whatever we did, whatever we stole, we ran off, you know, and we were laughing about it like it's a game.
The children, we want to go home. They thought they are in vacation. Mommy, I want to go home. And all the time, Mommy, I want to go home.
But I think it's very cool how you managed to keep some humour.
Oh yeah.
We did.
Another thing, Lady Mountbatten, she was at concentration camp with us.
In the evening, and
Do you remember any of the songs?
How we sang together.
Do you remember the song?
Oh yeah. Hello, hello.
Well, that's the story.
There's laughter, there is crying.
There was a lot of things, not just one story or another story. Every day there's something happening. If it's not with us, it's with the others. Things happen in camp.
Very much very interesting story.
No.
Mike, go ahead, you can talk. You can talk if you want.
You want to say something? Would you like to say something?
Yeah,
Particular story wants to tell, so
a
just
small
whenever.
story.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, go.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was in Singapore when the Japanese came and took over from Britain. But I wasn't in the army, so the enemies there.
You weren't interned right away.
I wasn't interned right away. I can walk the streets and all that, but I must be home by a certain time. And I made myself friendly with some of the enemies, some what's that? From Japan, Japanese. And I got friendly with the officers and all that. So they didn't know what Jewish is, you know, and what you all do and all that. Well, once a week we go and thank God for be alive. So we have a temple where we go once a week to pray. So this officer said, "Oh, interesting. Can you show me this place?" I said, "Yes, come along." And the armies, they have a sword, you know. They have a sword and a cap on their head. So they're going to this.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you have to look at my camera because if not, I only see your side. Okay,
Oh,
just
yeah.
go ahead, keep going.
Tell me the story.
Yes, tell Ruthie. Tell Ruthie
Yeah.
the story. Tell Ruthie.
Yeah. So I became friendly with this officer, and he said, "The next time we have a service in the temple, I'll bring you over." So the Sabbath came. I took him to the synagogue, and he came in his uniform with his sword and all that. So I told him, "You're not allowed to take a sword into this temple. We are praying to God now." He said, "All right, I'll take it out." He took it out.
Wow.
And there were a lot of children also in the synagogue. They saw the sword. They wanted to steal it from him. So I had to rush after them. Says, "No, you cannot steal it. This is for the man." I had to make sure that, you know, it's put aside. It's not, can't be stolen. So I said, "But what you can do is you can keep a kippah on your head." You know, what is a kippah? You have, for the war you wear that big one. We have a little one on the head. And he liked the idea, so I took him in. He was interested, and we became friends after that.
Wow.
Good things and you remember.
And now, to remember it, I have a sword at home till today. Yeah, as a souvenir. I have one of the swords at home, but it's I don't show it.
Can you tell us how you got to Indonesia, about the temples?
I don't know how I went to Indonesia.
I'm gonna pinch this back.
How did they come? From
Exactly what you were saying earlier.
Oh, I need the microphone.
From Iraq.
Okay?
Yeah. Can you get close to her?
But they didn't go from Iraq.
Sit close to her a little bit.
Why? Because that's the way it was. He's going to edit it so as if it was a continuation.
Oh, yeah.
See? Ask her. You have the person- My producer. Go ahead.
I don't think they knew about Indonesia, but when they left back then, they go from, they don't need no visa, only money to buy a ticket on the boat.
Cut. We're going to start in Iraq and Syria.
Yes, but
and
I'm
break up-
saying-
No, but you have to start there.
They didn't go straight to Indonesia, they traveled.
But you have to say that. You have to say that.
With the breakup of the Ottoman Empire,
Yes.
our parents started to look for a place to go.
And they didn't know, then you say they didn't know there was a place like Indonesia. If you want to, but start with that.
Okay.
I told them they first went to Bombay because they were allowed in. And then from there they went through
No,
India.
they went first to Persia.
Yeah, and then they went to the British colony.
Stay there a while, and then go further to India, to Burma.
Burma, India.
India, oh, Bombay.
No.
My father long that to believe.
Okay.
No, start with that, with the breakup of the Ottoman Empire. Nay, yay!
Okay, go ahead.
Because that's what it.
So the older boys, they don't want to go into that army, and they left back then. Bought a ticket, go in a boat, not like nowadays, you need a visa, and, you know, it was easy for them. So they go from Persia to India, Burma, they go on and landed in Indonesia, and they stayed in Indonesia. A lot of them also landed in Bombay. There's a lot of Iraqi Jews there too. It depends where they feel comfortable.
But why did they leave? Why did they
Because they have to be in the army
in the army in
of the Ottoman, and they don't want that. They don't mind to go in the army of Iraq. A lot went in there. But when the Ottoman took over, they didn't want, they left. They left the family, the older boys. And on the long run, they bring the family too, little by little. So that is how they started in the
Far East.
The Far East.
What were the boats followed the spice trade, right?
That's right. That's right. And then wherever they found it desirable, they would stop off. So some stopped off in Iran, some stopped off in India, in Burma, and the last stop was Indonesia. So you had to get off the boat or go all the way back to Iraq.
No, they went to Australia.
And Australia, yeah.
It depends. They went to China.
They went to China.
Shanghai.
Yeah, and they became the biggest opium.
Oh gosh.
They were.
No, it was legal then.
Yeah, that's right. I heard it was Singapore also. It was legal.
It was, and the richest Jews in the Far East were those who traded in opium.
Yeah,
that's right.
With the opium traders, licensed
They were-
by the
yeah.
British.
Yeah, it was.
It's okay.
But I don't want to make that such a note. It's very unfair. So meteen na have a value.
my family, and I
This is
Okay. After World War II, the Dutch lost Indonesia to Sukarno, and civil war broke out. Most of my family left to Singapore, which was still controlled by the British. When Singapore became independent, our first Prime Minister was David Marshall. He was a Jewish Prime Minister in Singapore, and it was a wonderful life in Singapore.
and also from Iraq.
Also from David Marshall was also from Iraq. He was the first Prime Minister in Singapore. He was Prime Minister for 2 years, right? 2 years.
No.
Sorry?
He was the first chief minister.
Chief minister,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
And we had a lovely community. We had 1,000 Jewish families. Most of the Jews from Indonesia moved to Singapore. We had a lovely community. I can only remember good things growing up there. And after the years went by, most of my family and family members moved to Los Angeles, and soon after everyone followed. I think the first family that moved here was Hilda, your son.
My sister, no.
Your son, Hilda. Hilda, yeah. All right, please help me here. I thought it was
It was Hilda and Lulu. We came in the 60s.
In the 60s.
They came in the 50s.
Wow. Oh, right, in Jackson soon.
Right.
They left in the 50s. And the whole Iraqi community from Indonesia, I would say about 90% of them ended up right here in Los Angeles. That's it. Anything else you'd like to add?
I didn't say how much we love America.
And how much we love America. My auntie Emma, her kids went through Yavna. They're lovely children. Now they're very prominent in Cincinnati and here in Los Angeles. Thanks to the education of Yavna, my kids are in Yavna.
Okay, let's start the commercial about
Commercial on Yavna.
What year? Okay, wait.
In the 60s, 70s.
Really? Okay, let's start. Okay, Yavne commercial. One more.
Yes.
Go ahead, talk about Yavne.
When I first came to Los Angeles, my auntie Emma was living here. Her children was going to Yavna, a very prominent school at the time. And soon after, my children are going to Yavna right now. And now Debbie Sassoon's kids are going to Yavna. And we feel very good with the school. It's really accelerating our children in the right direction. And I'm very happy with it.
Walk here.
Okay.
Look at the camera. Look at the camera.
I think you got it.
Okay, one more time without looking up.
One more time.
Looking at my camera.
Just look at the camera.
Except mention Sunny, not Debbie.
Okay. Again, from the beginning? Okay.
And don't look at them, just look at my camera. Okay, go ahead.
When we first came here, my auntie Emma and Jerry Blank were living here. We were very close. We had a lot of family here. Emma's children went to Yavna, and only good things comes out of Yavna. So my kids are in Yavna, my cousin's kids are in Yavna, and hopefully we'll have a very strong, good community, and God willing, we'll build up this community in the right direction. Cut.